In this video, I'm going to be showing you the basics as well as some important tips for turning Revit massing into actual building elements. In one video, I am going to be showing you how to create mass walls, mass floors, mass roofs, curtain systems, and as a bonus, I'm going to be showing you how to build complicated paneling systems inside of Revit. Before we start, really important, there is a big sale on Balkan Architect website, so if you want to get $100 discount on getting Revit courses, you can check it out. The sale ends today, so make sure to be quick about it. You can check it out by following the link up in the cards above or the first one in the description below this video. Okay, so now without any further ado, let's go to Revit. And here we are in Revit. So I wanted to start off with something. So here you can see I've got these three shapes and I've modeled this as massing. So if I just select this and go to edit in place, it's just going to bring us to the massing environment, and this is what we have. So here what I'm going to do for this one is I'm just going to double click here so I can edit this. So let's go actually to the south elevation. Okay, so let's use that fillet arc here. So just like this. So basically here we have three shapes. This one, if I just double click, you can see we have this arc here, and then the rest of these are straight lines. Now for this shape, I've used a set of arcs. So I've got one arc on top, or kind of half circle, and then here I have this arc here, and then finally for this shape, I've used lines on the bottom, but this here on top, this is actually a spline. So the reason why I did this is I just want to show you different behavior when we start placing actual building elements on top of this. Now to turn this into shapes, let's just go here to create form. For this one, create form, and then finally for this one, create form. Okay, went to the other side, that's fine. Let's bring it here. Okay, perfect. So here we have these three forms, and now let's hit finish mass, and now we can start turning this into actual building geometry. So what you want to do is you can go here to massing inside, and then here you have tools to model by face, which basically means you're using massing and turning it into building elements, or you're actually hosting building elements such as walls and roofs on top of massing surfaces or on massing surfaces. So here I'll first go to the roof, and then I want to show you an interesting behavior. So here, if I come here, I can select this surface, for example. I can select this surface. Here I can select this one, this one, this one. And then for this one, I can select it as well. But here for this vertical surface, I cannot select that surface. So for roofs, Revit isn't really going to allow you to pick vertical surfaces to create roofs. So if I just go here to create roof, this is what that's going to look like. Now, if I hit the escape key a few times, you may have noticed that in all cases, the roof goes below the surface we selected. Now, if we select that roof again, here you can see the pick face location, pick faces location, and if I expand the menu, here you have the option to face at the top of the roof or face at the bottom of the roof. So currently, basically it hosted the roof, kind of the exterior top side of the roof is on the face of the massing. Now if I switch that on the bottom, basically it's just going to have the bottom of the roof on that face of the massing. So basically it's just going to flip it to look like this. So you have those two options. I prefer using this one, but it's really up to you and how you want to approach this. Now I want to show you something that's going to happen if you have this massing like this with a spline. So if I go here to edit in place, and what I'm going to do here is, let's see if I can, how can I change this? Okay, so actually what I'm going to do is I'm just going to build this kind of from scratch. So let me just select this surface, delete, and now I'm only left kind of with the original one. And I'm just going to select the spline on top, and then here I can edit that spline. So if I go like this, so see how it now kind of doesn't go straight down, it kind of has this additional edge. So just looks like that. If I now hit finish, and if I turn that into the surface again, just like so, There we go. And if I hit finish mask, what you'll see now is if I select this roof and if I try to update that to the face, it's going to say can't create roof. So basically this roof here is not going to be able to be created as a roof. Now the reason for that is because now we have kind of a vertical surface here, and if I go here to roof, it's not going to allow me to pick that. It's still going to allow me to pick these ones here, but it's not going to allow me to pick this one. So that's just something to keep in mind when it comes to Revit roofs. They basically are not going to follow vertical surfaces, and if you change a surface to have that vertical edge like we did here, it's going to give you issues. Now you can of course fix that by using a wall. So if I switch this to a wall, let's go with this one, I can now pick this vertical surface here. I can pick regular walls like these here, but also I can pick out this surface here. So this surface is going to work. So that's just something that you'll notice. However, if I come here on the bottom, you'll see it's not going to allow me to pick a completely flat face. So it's going to allow you to work with a face that has kind of, I guess, horizontal elements in it. With this one, for example, that has a spline with a horizontal part here and there, but overall it's not going to allow you to pick out completely horizontal surfaces for walls. And then you can just kind of place those walls wherever you like. If I switch this to realistic, yeah, this is what that's going to look like. Now, just like how we can shift the positioning of the roof by changing that face on which it's hosted, the same thing goes for a wall. So here we have this wall that's hosted on top. So even though it looks like a roof, we've modeled it as a wall. Now here you'll notice that we have a location line in this case. So here it was, I think it was like picked faces location, and then here it's just like a location line. Now here you can switch that. So if I switch this to interior, it's going to go to the outside, but better yet, if I switch this to a different wall that has a few more layers, so let's go to brick on metal stud, just like that. Now if I pick this, I can really pinpoint where that face is going to be. So now if I come in here, and then if I set this to core center line, for example, it's going to go to that core center line. If I go to perhaps core face exterior, it's going to find that line. So you can basically really kind of accurately pinpoint the position on that face, how your wall is hosted. Now I'm just going to bring it to not center line, let's go with finish face exterior. Now one thing to keep in mind when it comes to these walls, if you have just a kind of a generic rectangular vertical wall, here if you try to change that, sometimes it's not going to work. It's just going to flip this, but this wall isn't, because it's created kind of as a regular rectangle, isn't really connected to the surface the way that this one is. This one we can't really edit. This one I can actually move it around. I can do whatever I want with it. So it's just something to consider when it comes to these walls. As long as the surface is complicated, it's going to give you some additional tools with the face, and if it's simple, then you can just edit the wall yourself. Okay, so that covers creating walls. Now let's go to creating actual floors. So if you go here to floor, you can see that you can't really select anything, so it kind of looks like it doesn't work. Well, actually, massing floors don't work like this. You don't go first here to floor. What you want to do first is actually select the massing itself, and it has to be kind of a mass. It can't really be a surface. It has to be a volume. So when you have that, here you can click on mass floors, and then inside of those volumes, each level that you pick here, and I'm just going to pick level 2, well, it's going to add a floor there. Now this is a massing floor, so it's just kind of there as a representation of a floor. It's not an actual floor geometry. Then you can use the floor by face tool to select those floors and then create them into actual floors. So now when we select them, you can see they have thickness and they're actually kind of generic floors. So that's basically how you can add floors to your buildings. And in a lot of cases, the connection of the floor here, it's not going to be good. So what I like to do is I like to use mass floors just to place that floor in place. But then I like to go here into edit boundary and make any kind of specific adjustments as necessary, because at least in my experience, I found that I often do have to make those changes. So that basically covers how to create roofs, walls, and floors. Now let's check out the curtain systems. Now for that I have created this surface. It's just kind of a warped-ish surface, just so I can show you how to build a complex curtain panel system or a curtain wall, and then this one I'll show you a bit later on how you can create something a bit more advanced. So basically for these curtain systems like this, or for these surfaces, if you want to build a curtain system, you just click on curtain system here, you select that, you click on create curtain system, and it's going to create something that's going to look like this. Now this might be a bit confusing at first, but basically what Revit did is just like the curtain wall that we have here, so just like these curtain walls that we have here, this is that just adjusted to a surface or to a face of some massing. Now if I just select this, you can see it's called curtain system. It's got some values, so basically 3000 millimeters long, 1500 millimeters high panels. And then here we have some justification rules and offsets, and if I go into edit type here, we can actually build this out a bit more. So I can actually duplicate this, and then I can say I want this one to be with mullions. Okay, so then I can come here and say, okay, I want a curtain panel that's glazed. Then I want a layout fixed distance, but I actually want this to be kind of vertical-ish. So let's go with 1400 here and with 2400 here. And then, as I said, I want mullions, so I'll just go with this one. And then a little trick, you select the first one when you place it. Select it, go Control-C to copy. Then you click Control-V, click, click, Control-V, click, and then it's just a really quick way of pasting this in. Okay, then when I click OK, it's going to update, and basically you'll see this will now change to something that's a bit more common for Revit. Now keep in mind, this will kind of start breaking your curtain system. See how panels are kind of warped out of place? But that's just because they're trying to follow this complex shape. So if you have a complex shape like this, either have smaller panels or just don't have that kind of warped of a shape, just because it's going to break and you're not going to build a building like this. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so that's basically how you build this regular curtain system. And also keep in mind that you can actually adjust this. So if I come here, you can see I can select the individual mullions, but also I can select, if I use the tab key, see how that grid line highlighted in blue? I can unpin that, and then I can actually manually move it around. Now it's going to follow some sort of a rule here on top of this surface, but it is going to move. So you can move it kind of up and down, and you can make some adjustments to that. Now it does follow kind of a weird line. If we look at it here, kind of at this angle, it's not really following like a horizontal line, so it can give you issues there. But yeah, you can make some small adjustments to these grid lines if that's something that you want to do, but you are kind of quite limited in what you can do. And then finally, let's cover the complex paneling systems. So for that, you don't really use any of the tools here in the massing. You don't want to use those. Well, you might want to, but you can't. So what you need to do is you need to select the surface itself, go into edit in place, select the surface here in the massing, so use the tab key, select the surface, and then you go here to divide surface. So it's basically going to divide the surface by rectangles, and by default it's set to no pattern, and then it still gives you like a rectangular pattern, and then here you can adjust it. So here I'll set this to 20, and I'll set this one to 50. So basically we're just going to have more of these, like smaller cubes. And then you can pick out patterns. So you want hexagon pattern, it's going to look like that. You want, I don't know, whatever you want. You want triangles, you can get triangles, and so on and so forth. So to keep it simple, I'm just going to put it at this 1/3 step. So it's going to look like this. Now, this still isn't like a curtain system. These aren't windows, these aren't panels, these are nothing basically. It's just kind of geometrical representation of what could perhaps once be. Okay, so how do we now turn this into actual panels? Well, for that we actually have to build a new family which we're going to use. So if I just go here to File, go to New, Family, you want to go with a metric curtain panel pattern based. So this is the family template you want to use, and then you hit open, and it's going to look like this. Now here, what you want to do is you want to select, see how this, you can't really select these grid lines here, but you can select the whole grid on the outside. So you select it on the outside, and then you can pick a pattern here, and you want to pick the pattern that you're going to use in Revit, and in this case that's 1/3 step. And it's going to look like this. So, as you can see, it's actually combining 3 of these into one. Now this presents us with a problem. So as I said, this is going to be a bit more complicated as a bonus, so I'm just going to kind of be showing you something a bit more complicated. So if I select this and say, okay, I just want to create a simple form just like that, and perhaps make it smaller, let's say 20 or 200 millimeters, and let's say I'm happy with this shape. If I just load that into the project, so let me load that in, okay, go to, oops, not there, here, 3D view. If I select this, you're going to notice that that family appears here in the properties of this shape, which is now divided, and it appears below this because that's the category, that's the grid that we selected, and it's just family for like a generic name. So if I select this, it's actually going to apply that pattern all, or apply that shape or that panel all across this surface. Now, as I said, this is going to give us a problem, and let's just give Revit a few seconds, and then I'll show you what I'm talking about. And there we go. So as you can see, this is now divided into these, but it looks like it's divided into little squares. Well, the thing is, it actually, if I just use the tab key to select individual panels, see how it basically, it did divide this into the panels, but the thing is, each panel was broken in 2 places, so in the end it just looks like squares. So you do have to be careful when doing this, and if I just let me actually just edit the family first. So you have to fix this. This doesn't work. So what I'll do is I'll undo this whole change, and then let me show you how this works. You have to kind of build it with the intention of it kind of twisting along with the shape. Now, as I said, this is advanced, so I have a whole course on this. I'm just going to link it up in the cards above. If you want to learn more, I think it's a really interesting topic, but for now, let me show you how you solve this. You go here to set work plane, and then you pick out one of these edges. You host a point just on top of that existing point. Hit the escape key a few times, you select that point, and then you bring it up just how thick you want the panel. So I want the panel at 200 millimeters, so I'm just going to set it to that. So see, now this point is always going to be here a little bit above this point. So no matter how much this point moves, this is still going to be there. And then we can repeat that on all 4 edges. So let me do that quickly. Okay, so now as you can see here, we have each one of those kind of corner points has this point above. Now we have to connect all of these. So you can hold the control key, and then you select like the bottom point, you select the top point, you can click on spline through points, so it's going to connect it with the line, and then I like to check here to make it a reference line, and then when we hit apply, basically it just connects those. And then you can do the same thing here, so select these 2, spline through points, make it a reference line, there we go, and then finally let's repeat that here, spline through points, and then make it reference. Okay, so basically you just want to repeat the same process on the other side. Basically you're going to have 2 rectangles on each side which you want to connect. Now that's going to help you because here we basically had that one kind of one surface that was extruded up, and then here it would break in 3 places because, well, obviously this is out of 3 squares, which can kind of flex. So here, if we just connect these 2 sides, it's not going to be broken by the flexing of these points in the middle. It doesn't really care what the points in the middle do, because it's going to connect this side with this side here. So if I make a broad selection like this of these lines here, hold the Control key, make a broad selection of these lines here, just like that. Did I do a good job? Hopefully I did. And now I can go here to create form. Now it has a form that, well, it's those 2 sides connected. So now once we have this, I can just load that into the project, and then I have to override this existing version. And as soon as it does that, you will see that we have a fixed shape. And this is the final result. So as you can see, now we have a clean shape of those panels, and now they're not broken in 2 places. Now they're kind of solid panels. So these complex panels can be a bit complicated to construct, but when you know what you're doing and when you learn how to create them, then you can get kind of really elaborate shapes and actually turn that into some really good high quality building elements. And now once you're done with creating your massing and applying building shapes or building elements and components to that massing, now you don't want to see the massing anymore, and then you can just go here to massing and site, and you can turn off show mass, and then those should disappear. Now in this case they didn't, and this happens sometimes. And then in that case, what you need to do is you need to go here to your visibility graphics overrides. You need to find massing here, so it should be, let's see, mass, and then you can just kind of apply or turn off the massing visibility, and then you're only going to see those massing or the building elements and not the mass itself. And even with this, even though it was constructed in the massing environment, the surface is gone, but all of the building elements, all of the panels are still there. And that's basically how you kind of complete these complicated shapes. So I hope you have learned a little bit more about massing in Revit. If you want to get access to this Revit project file or any of my other Revit project files, you can get all of those on my Patreon page, which I'm going to link up in the cards above, and then also down below in the description of this video. Thank you for watching, guys. Make sure to check out my website, balkanarchitect.com, for more Revit courses. There I have over 120 hours of content, and I'm adding more each week. Make sure to subscribe for more videos, and also I've added a video over there that might interest you as well.